Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me again for another episode of Living with Favor, where we talk about faith, abundance, vitality, overflow, and relationships. I'm Lisa Mosby, your host of the show, and we're here every week with a bit of advice. And I try to pick a theme for each month. And we're in spring. We've been talking about detoxing and cleansing. We've been talking about how balancing our energy and meditation and movement. And this week I have a special guest. She's special in my heart, and she's extremely knowledgeable and an expert in her field. And so we're talking about how we run our business and how we can let Jesus be the CEO of our business. And there's no accident that this is falling on Holy Week. There's a reason that we're doing it this week. So I want to introduce to you my friend Gayle Chaky. She used 3 books on faith leadership to develop and launch a community of like-minded people, primarily women, that want to introduce Jesus as their CEO. They want to be led and they want to be gifted by the Holy Spirit in how they're doing their business. And so Gayle is a kingdom business mentor. That's what she does. She's a speaker and she's the host of a podcast called With God as My CEO. And she's also founder of Impact Makers Journey Mastermind series. So we're going to talk about all of those things in today's episode. And I'm going to bring you in, Gayle, and let you share your mission with folks. It comes so much more powerfully from the business owners when I have them share that. So I would love for you to, come on in here and share your mission. So welcome and thank you for being with me today.
Thank you, Lisa. I am really honored that you called me to be a guest today. So just a little bit more about my mission. So I help women entrepreneurs actually sharpen those decision-making skills and steward their operations with excellence. And what is this all about? It's to actually boldly magnify their business kingdom impact.
And for those of us that are Christ followers, Christians, it's important. We want to be able to bring that in, but there's really not a lot of places to learn how to do that, to how to be a kingdom builder and be mentored by king. I love that you use the word mentor because I do mentorship in business, but I don't call myself a kingdom mentor. It's, a business or a digital marketing or a social media mentor. And so I love that you've put that in there. And it's like, here's who I am, here's how I'm showing up, and these are the people that I help. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you got on this journey? And I know that this is not where you started. You were in a whole other field. If you want to tell us what that was and how did that transition happen for you?
Absolutely. And that's how we met, Lisa. So when I was in the other field, but I have a background actually as an accounting professor, and I did that for many years. And honestly, circumstances happened that now I can look back on it as we often can. And I say, okay, the Lord actually called me out of that job, because if you had asked me 10 years ago, I would be like, oh yeah, I'm going to retire. I'm just going to stay here. And what happened is that he really put something into my heart. I always loved entrepreneurship. And I was getting a little frustrated with some of the restrictions that were imposed upon me where I was working. And I decided to leave. And it was a big shock. And I knew, and looking back on it again, I can see how he pulled me out. But I left. And I still stayed in the academic arena. And what I did was I started my own business, and I was working with high school students and their parents and helping them to find the right college for the right reason with the Lord's help. And it was good. It was good. Things were growing slowly, but it was a big shock coming from a very secure position with medical benefits. I do have a spouse, thank goodness, who's very supportive. So, I mean, that was a little bit of a help in this journey, but still, it would be, as many of you could probably relate to, a couple months of good income, and then I'd be done with the clients, and then boom, and then we would drop. And I just felt, first of all, it was much harder than I ever thought it would be. And being a business professor, you would think, or so I thought, I was an MBA and my CPA, that I could have had a lot of this all set up, right? That I could do this. And when you're a solo entrepreneur, you have to put on so many different hats, right? I mean, constantly changing hats. And I just felt, even as I was growing, I felt that something was missing. And I never let go of the business. It was constantly in my mind. And, one of the things, and maybe many of you can relate to something similar. One of the reasons I started this business was because I wanted to be in charge. Because I had worked for an institution that had so many rules based on my state and so many things we had to do and didn't have a voice in, that I was very, very excited to be in charge. And that's what I was for a couple of years. I was in charge. And there's a lot of women business owners, I think we want to be in charge. We have great ideas. We want to serve others. This is really coming from our heart, and we want to be the ones that make the decisions. So I was trotting along this path. And in the meantime, I had been for many years in leadership position in healing prayer ministry in my church. So I was very familiar with prayer. So I was praying for people in church. I was praying for my parents and students, because a lot of times high school students and parents have different opinions about what the future should be. So I was praying for them and praying that they found the right college and praying for family unity in the process. But I never prayed for the direction of my business. I never prayed for the success of my business. I never prayed for my role as CEO at that time.
Mhm.
And, there was this big disconnect. And like you mentioned in the beginning, you said, we don't hear a lot about this. And I have a wonderful church, and there are many good churches out there, but faith in business is not something you hear typically when you're sitting in a sermon, right? And even in prayer groups, Bible study groups, it's really not out there that much. So I'm not trying to defend myself, but what happened was I had taken some Christian coaching courses when I had left the accounting profession. And I had met this person named Kim Avery, who was a wonderful mentor. And long story short, she initially I worked with her for sales coaching and different things. And I thought it was so awesome because there's this organization that does Christian coaching. And I'm like, this is perfect for me. And eventually, make a long story short, Kim wrote this book called The Prayer Powered Entrepreneur. And this book was the catalyst. So it's 31 days of prayer for business people. First, I did it in a Facebook group. And the book basically made me come to the realization through prayer, through following things, through reading this, that, oh my gosh, I had I did have a major thing missing. And my piece that was missing was, yes, I needed to pray for my clients and their parents, but I needed to pray for my business. And then it got even tougher. Now, remember, I wanted to be in charge, but if I wanted to serve the Lord through this business, I had to give it up to the Lord, because the Lord owns everything in this earth, right? And if he had called me to be a business owner at this place and time, I had to honor him. And let me tell you, that was not in my personality to give up control, right?
Yes, yes. I want to go on to book 2 and 3 because there are 3 books that I know you're going to introduce, but I want to bring a little piece of scripture in here that might help to tie this together for folks. And that's 1 Samuel 16. If you're not familiar with the story, this is when Samuel is called to go anoint the new king, to go find and anoint the new king, to recognize him. And he's sent, and it's tells of the story of David's first anointing as king. And David had 3 anointings before he had king. And the scripture reminds us that some of the most influential people in history, God's people, dealt with these common things, these fear, the uncertainty, anxiety, insecurities, expectations, and nudges, like what we were supposed to do. And that's the case with Samuel. And that's the case with David. Samuel was supposed to go and, talk to Jesse, and he had 8 children, and he's supposed to find the right one. And like, that's a lot of pressure. I'm picking the next king. And, lo and behold, that's like everything kind of stems from there underneath David. And so, like, maybe it's not the same for us in our business. Maybe it's not that same impact, but yet for some of us, it could be. We could be putting food on the tables of families who would otherwise starve. Through our coaching or through our products or our services, we could be saving people's lives with health or fitness or nutritional supplements or products that would make a difference in someone's life. So I don't hold lightly what any of us are capable of doing, the gifts that we've been given. But how do we get out of our own way and let God light the path in front of us, like Samuel did? He did have to show up. He did have to get there. He went through those first seven people, those first 7 children. It's like, it's not, he's not here. And Jesse says there's one more. And when he shows up, David, he's a young kid. He does not present like a king. Do we present like business owners? Did you feel like you could be coaching people as a kingdom mentor when you first started down this path? Probably not. I've been in business for 40 years and I'm still learning things from the younger generation on technology and the way things have been changing. So this is an evolutionary process. When we allow God in, when we allow ourselves to be led, then that's when the beauty and the miracle can appear. And there are places within the Bible that tell us if we have those talents, we don't need to bury it. We need to get out there and grow those talents. We need to show up when we're nudged and go maybe choose the next king or whatever it might be for you. There's answers within the pages of that Bible. And that's where Gayle is coming from. She, it's from the Bible, but then it showed up in these other books. So that was book number 1, 30 Days of Prayer Power, 31 Days of Prayer.
Prayer-powered entrepreneur, right?
Yep. And so you were going through that, you were being obedient. That led to something else. And I know the story, but I want you to tell it.
Well, that was the catalyst. That's what I call it, right? And I'm like, okay, and again, it was a struggle. It wasn't something I just popped into overnight and learned how to do. Okay, the light came on, but then I had to learn what to do with the light, And so after I finally understood that, and I committed to that. And I literally, you may laugh, but I literally, and I am not the only one who has done this, because some very big business owners that are Christians did similar things. I read about them in my research, but I actually typed out, a little letter, printed it out, giving control of my business to the Lord with a date on it. And it's in my folder with all my other business papers. All of the things, the LLC papers and everything. So, and some places have it hanging on the wall. For me, I'm a solopreneur, so I just have it in my business folder. But then my next question was, okay, he's CEO. I understand that. He's always available. What am I supposed to do? Like, I thought I was the CEO, right? So now it's like, what am I supposed to do? And speaking of books, this second one that I love is Well Done by Ken Gosnell. And what I learned through a lot of research again and prayer was that I needed to focus on excellent stewardship. See, because there's a little bit of a jump between God is CEO and what do I do? Because business owners don't want to say, and this can happen, okay, he owns it all, I'll sit back and wait. Well, I got to tell you, if you just sit back and wait and don't do anything, that's kind of what happens, because what we really need to understand is the Lord blesses us, but he wants to partner with us. And you mentioned earlier, right? Talents, resources, gifts. He's blessed us with these different gifts and resources because he wants us to use them, because he wants us to use them to serve others so that in the end, we glorify him, right?
Sure.
He wants us to be a shining light to others. So again, that's where this book, Well Done, comes into play, because Ken Gosnell wrote this book based on 12 biblical principles. See, it's all in the Bible.
Mhm.
We all go, I was dealing with that fear of missing out because there were so many different things coming at me from so many different directions. And yes, there are wonderful things out there, resources in the secular world that you should use in your business. I mean, I was a CPA, an accountant. I mean, yeah, of course I
Yeah, cool.
believe in that, right? That black and white. I mean, I understand numbers and everything. But if you look at, and I mentioned earlier, I help with decision making. If you look at how you make your decisions, if you look at how you operate your business, you need to go to the Bible. And Ken's book talks about, and he handles not just small entrepreneurs, but corporate. And later on, I can explain, I pulled things out that are relevant to the ladies that I work with. But it's just so important that you understand what the Lord expects of you as a business owner and how to move forward. And there's wisdom. There's wisdom. There's simple things, such a simple thing like the golden rule from Matthew, the book Matthew. Now, the secular world thinks, let's treat others as you would have them treat you. Nobody realizes in the secular world that came from the Bible. It's from the Bible. Go the second mile. Take the extra step. It's from the Bible.
Yeah.
And you don't just, we can't just hear those things and brush them off. You have to take that and say, how can I integrate? First, you have to understand the principles. And secondly, how can I integrate them into my business? And that's a big piece. Excellent stewardship is huge.
That's what mentoring is all about, is to transfer that information, taking the research and the time that you've invested in learning and knowing and mastering these principles so that you can pass them on to other folks. If we're seeking God's voice at some point, you may find yourself at a hurdle, fear that's preventing you from fulfilling what you're supposed to do, or maybe that's even that word supposed to, that you're called to do, that you're feeling nudged to do. There's that fear that kind of shows up, so I know for me, I've been asking this question, and I'm guessing some people here too. It's like, what is God wanting to do through me? Like, we are a conduit, we are a vessel. And that's when you tell this story, that's what I hear is like, I didn't choose this. I'm really close to retirement, or I was, or I could have stayed where I was and plugged along. But yeah, this came to me first, and then it came through me that this is where I needed to go. Whose lives does God want us to impact through us? And do we become paralyzed by that fear that, like what you were saying is like, okay, I gave it up to him. Now what? I find myself doing that all the time. And then, is this my will? Is this his will? Am I trying to force this? Is this of this world, or is this of that spiritual world, of what needs to happen for the betterment of the kingdom? And as you said, glorify God in a way. So, take us into book number 3 and how that helped pull you through the fear and the paralysis that may have been caused by some of that fear and uncertainty.
Well, it's funny. One thing I just want to mention before I go into book number 3,
Yeah.
that really fits in, it's just a piece of my story, is just fast forward just a minute so I can make the point here. But so I had read Kim's book. I had, I had given up control. And then I heard that she needed people. She was training to run a mastermind. And now I'm still working with the students, mind you. So this is like, how's God going to use you, right? This is what this is about. So I'm like, wait a minute. I'm dealing with students here. What does this have to do with anything? So I talked to my spouse and I said, wait a minute. I really would like to do this, but it makes no sense for me. See, in my mind, what I'm thinking, right? So I was still kind of being in control, right? What I'm thinking. And my husband, and God uses people around us, said, but you love that book. You're showing that book to everybody. Take the mastermind facilitator training. Wouldn't it just be fun? Go ahead. So I did, and I loved it. So, the 8 weeks were up, and then and this isn't surprising. I'm like, do one of these because I so believe in that. So guess who signed up? Were the moms of the students I had worked with, some of the, people you and I knew from the prior group, because they trusted me, because they knew that I had done well with their students. We went through the 8 weeks. It was a blast. And the 8 weeks are up. And then they said to me, what's next?
Yeah. Yeah.
I went, what do you mean, what's next? See, because this was God nudging me. I had no idea. So for me, and it's going to be different for all of us. For me, what he did was he started me on this, and I thought this was all to help my business with the students. But he was actually turning this into a new career that I never would have dreamed of, ever. If you had asked me 4 years ago, I would have been like, oh, no, 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 I'm academia,
So you're
And
saying we don't have to know all the answers? There might be a trust in here? Is that what I'm hearing? Keep going.
yes, I know I kind of jumped ahead, but I had to share that
Yeah,
because you're
yeah.
saying we don't know. And you have to be open and you have to listen to him. Now, I didn't go and jump and get rid of my old business. I just said, I said, okay, ladies, give me a couple months. I said, what can I create now? What would be the next logical step? Because people develop a closeness when they go through this process together, and brainstorming is awesome. But so, and then, I ended up writing more masterminds. And it, like I said, now obviously from how you introduced me, it's now my career. But you don't know what the Lord has for you, but I can promise you that he has God dreams, a big God dream.
And we
So,
need to
all
go
right.
where we're planted. I
Yeah.
think that's the other piece is grow where you're planted. You didn't need to know that was coming. You just needed to show up and do the things that were presented to you today. Sometimes we have anxiety. What do they say? Anxiety and depression, thinking about the past and thinking about the future and not being fully present in your life. When we're present, that's when we hear the nudges, we hear the direction, the guidance, when we see the light bulb flashing, it's like, wow, I need to go take that class. I need to sign up for that mastermind. I don't know how it's going to help me, but you were driven and drawn into that, and it changed the trajectory of your life. And I think we forget sometimes that get out of your own way. Stop worrying about the future. There is somebody, if you give up control, there will be more of a future than you could ever possibly imagine yourself. That's my takeaway from what you're sharing. And that is what it says in the Bible to do. But we miss some of that interpretation. So,
And it gets better because as you were talking about Samuel and obedience, so just with the small part, you can tell this journey it came upon me, and I questioned others and I got confirmation, and I continued with what my heart was telling me to do, which was the Lord, but it didn't come easily. So I was working on, second mastermind, just really wanting to start to share about, stewardship with excellence, etc. And okay, that's all good. But then, kind of comes full circle because I'm thinking, okay, I can do all these things, but let's be real. We, number one, need to be profitable. We do. And number two, we need to multiply, which brings me to my third book, Multiply by Cassie Kitzmiller, another mentor of mine. We need to multiply because the Lord has told us we are meant to multiply. So think about it. Okay, Lisa, the Lord gives you gifts. He gives you abilities. There's a little bit of a struggle in totally understanding where to go, but you surround yourself with others. You surround yourself with the word. You pray to him. I consider that a hotline, right? The Lord's always there. You pray to him and you keep moving forward, right? But he hasn't just given you those gifts and resources to serve a couple people, because he's made it very clear throughout the Bible we are to multiply. So if you are really going to bring glory to the Lord, you also want to multiply that glory as much as is within your, possible for you. And that's what this is about. The last and probably most complex, because we kind of move our way up, is understanding. And okay, here's the secular way. Something so simple. Secular way says, if you want to make more money, if you want to get more clients, if you want to, whatever, you want to grow, you have to spend more time. Is that not what you hear? You need
Awesome.
to
Yeah,
spend more
often.
time to
Yes.
succeed, right? You can't spend time with your family. You can't spend time, you can't take vacation. That's something very often, that you very often hear. But if you really look at multiplication, as the Lord says, it goes all the way back to that obedience. You have to be with the right people, with the right actions. All of this is biblical. We're just looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And we and then I ended up writing a mastermind, with that on how we do that. So you've got your three pieces, right? You've got your mindset piece that the Lord is CEO. You've got your very practical piece of it, stewardship, excellent stewardship. Let's just get together and say, okay, this is your business. How can you go ahead and apply these principles? And then you've got the concept of, okay, am I really doing this, being obedient to the Lord? How do I multiply this? And it's not about putting more time in. It's about being obedient to doing it how and when and with who that he tells you to.
Yeah. And it's
So,
not our outward appearance. It's not if we came from a wealthy family. It's not if we, like all of these external things that we think that we need to have. We have to have the right clothes. We have to say the right words. We have to be, do all of these things perfectly or in a certain manner. And you've shown us, at least through your experience, and there are many more folks that you've worked with that have had this same, aha, all of a sudden it's upon you. When God chooses someone for a specific mission, it's almost like, you're anointed and you're given the gifts and the resources, as we keep talking about. You're anointed. He identifies and equips us for the tasks that we are here to do in this lifetime. We've seen it through the scriptures. There's so many different people that he's talked about. One of them in particular that I want to get to is Esther, because you have an Esther circle, and I would like to dive into that. But for folks watching, it's who you are. You are perfectly made for exactly the task that he has for you. Can you see that? Can you look in the mirror and see that? Can you hear that in your own self-talk, that subconscious mind that's kind of nagging at us? Can you block out the voices and the noise from other people who are saying you're not good enough, you're not perfect enough, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough skill or training? All of that stuff can be added. It's when we surrender to what it is that we are called to do, what's been placed upon our heart, what's been placed upon our lives. When we start to listen for those voices, those messages, when we start to see it around us showing up, and, for me, it's like something showed up 3 times. I'm like, we need to be friends because we showed up in the same room 3 times. It's like, I need to meet with her. I need to find out more information about her. What is it that you do? Tell me more. And then, life just plays its way out. And so the fact that you reference those 3 books, 3 is really prevalent for me. Like if God shows me something 3 times, like I'm on it. I know this came from him. And so the fact that you had those 3 books, but let's kind of move into, you have the 3 masterminds. So that's how you convey this information, how you bring people along and how you help them to move into this direction. But there's some other piece that you have that is beautiful. And Esther's one of the earliest Bible studies that I had done because I was fascinated by the women of the Bible. So I love her story. I love the powerful but meek person that she is, how she was so calm and patient and could gather and rally people around her for what her purpose and mission was. And she laid her life on the line, literally, to be able to do that, to have the influence that she had. She completely surrendered herself to be able to do that. So that the fact that you named your group the Esther Circle, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that. How'd that come up for you, and what is the Esther Circle all about?
okay, yeah. Well, I have 2 things. But the Esther Circle is a group where we meet twice a month, and in my podcast, I actually delve into the Bible every episode of my podcast, and we rehash, a Bible story, and then I say, okay, what are the truths here, and how can we take this and specifically use this, implement it in your business? How can we develop business strategies? So in the Esther Circle, and yeah, there's of course there's a story to the title of it because I truly believe you talked about fear before, right? So I truly believe 100% that the reason why we suffer from the imposter syndrome, the reason why we suffer from fear of missing out, the reason is because the enemy does not want you to be successful. Think about it. About the last thing in the world the enemy wants you to do is bring glory to the Lord. The last thing he wants you to do is to treat customers with excellence through stewardship. The last thing he wants you to do is realize the Lord is CEO and you have that prayer with him, that strong, impenetrable prayer, right? And the last thing he wants you to do is multiply it. The last thing he wants me to do is to go and share this with more and more women so that we have more women that are strong. And who are they strong like? Esther. So, ladies, it's just like, I want you to say, I am a precious daughter of the king, like Esther did. You put on your crown and we will march together and grow your business based on biblical strategies.
Yeah.
So that's Esther is just such a symbol. And what she did was so brave. And she could have fallen. She could have been stopped by fear, but the fear is from the enemy. And by spending time in the Bible is the best way that you can protect your business, and with prayer and with being with others. So, yeah. So that's my story about the Esther Circle.
So we have masterminds, we have the Esther Circle, we have the 3 books that are the foundation of your business and how you got started. You guys, so many resources today. This was a powerful 30 minutes with my dear friend Gayle. And if you want to plug into, she runs a networking group that's called the Beehive. So you can tune in there. It doesn't cost you anything to participate in that. So I would encourage you at least connect with her through that. So give us podcast name and how do folks find you?
Okay, with God is my CEO is the podcast name. And just GayleChaky.com is my website. Can I throw in one more thing here?
Yes, please do. Please
That's
do.
really important is that one of the things as I was going through this process, when I was still kind of running the 2 businesses, is I came up and I was doing some research. And all of a sudden, I literally got called away from what I was doing. And I got into this whole big thing. I was up here for hours and I came up with the acronym. I didn't, but I was given the acronym IMPACT. And IMPACT actually stands for insight into using biblical principles. M is management. The CEO is your Lord. P is prayer. Prayer is your hotline. A is attitude. Remind your mind as often as possible with his promises. C is community. Spend time in community with other business believers. And T is testimony, saying your business must be focused on the people you serve. Be a testimony of the Lord's light shining through you. So that's called impact. And I have it's free, this little free online assessment, and anybody can go on. And I just ask you a simple question about each one, and then you get answers right back. You get a number, and then some tips and things that you can do just to get started. And I love starting that way because that's how I had this word, I had all this stuff done. I walked downstairs. I kid you not. I walked downstairs and I said to my husband, I said, I said, look at this. And I showed him. He goes, oh, that's pretty good. I had a couple pages. I said, I don't know what it's for.
It just comes.
Pillars of my business.
Yeah.
It was quite a time with him, and it's just crazy. So yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited for the God-sized dreams that he has for you and all the other people out there. It's amazing. We just have to tap in and support one another.
Beautiful. Thank you. And is that on your website? I haven't actually.
It is. It's
that.
on the top of my website, and I can actually, this is the first time I haven't implemented this part, but I can tell you I am going to be doing something called impact interviews with business owners. brand new, but I haven't even set it up yet. So I'm just announcing it. So eventually that will be an option. You can take the impact assessment. And then if you'd like to come on a chat with my podcast and see how you're doing with that and chat about what we can do to move you forward, I will be doing that. I don't have the date yet, but that's the latest thing I've gotten. So.
And I know I have the honor and the pleasure of speaking to your networking group next month, so I'm excited about that.
Yes.
So we
Yeah,
are commingling, we are integrating women's businesses. If you are an entrepreneur working out on your own, and you want to come alongside a kingdom mentor, if you want to come along people who are, living through faith in their businesses or experiencing faith or bringing faith into their businesses, please get in touch. Both of us are here to support you and help you move in that direction. If you'd like a bit of advice on your website, digital marketing, social media, you can go to my website, and that's Lisa Mosby, Mosbey, lisamosby.com. And there is a spot right at the top for you to book 30-minute session with me. Doesn't cost anything, but we can talk about your business and I can help you to plug into these many, many guests that we've had on this show who all have amazing resources for you and your business. So thank you again for tuning in. Thank you so much, Gayle, for being my guest. And you brought the power today. You brought so much, way too many resources, not too many, way many resources for, something for everyone. That's what I love. It doesn't matter where you are. Are you ready to go full bore? You've been messing around with this for a while and you want to dive in, you're going in the deep end, or if you're dipping your toe in, you just need a resource, a couple of questions to learn a little bit more what this could look like. We've got you covered from A to Z. So please don't let this opportunity pass you by. Take advantage of it. Check out Gayle's website, check out my website, and let's get you moving. Let's expand your brand online and expand your impact in your community and in your family. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.